Hi everyone, welcome back to Property Ponderings. My name's Craig Nicol from Nicol Buyer Advisory in Melbourne, Australia, where we help people buy and renovate their properties, bringing to you over 15 years of property experience to help you make better property buying decisions and build the future you're chasing. So in this episode, we are diving into one of the most important decisions for any home buyer, how to choose the right location for your first home. This is one of the biggest factors in ensuring that your property not only meets your lifestyle needs, but also holds its value or appreciates over time. Let's break it down into a few key factors that you should consider. So let's dive in. The first one is budget and affordability. The first thing to think about when choosing a location is how much you can afford. Many people make the mistake of stretching their budget too far in pursuit of their dream location, which can leave them financially vulnerable. According to Ben Kingsley from the Property Couch, it's crucial to ensure that your mortgage repayments don't exceed 30% of your monthly income. This allows you to comfortably manage your mortgage while leaving room for other financial commitments. Take a close look at areas where you can afford to buy and be realistic about your budget. Look for suburbs that are still within reach financially but offer good prospects for growth. Often these areas are undergoing gentrification or are slightly further from the city centre but have upcoming infrastructure projects that can boost their appeal into the future. When being realistic about your budget, understand the impact that price quoting and underquoting may have when you're looking at properties, because this sort of thing can also make you feel like you're a chance to buy into certain areas, but it can just turn out to be a waste of time. It does depend what type of market you are in. At the moment, Melbourne is a fairly weak market, so not all properties are being underquoted that are going to auction and then flying way over. But in a hot market, certainly that can be the case, and you do end up wasting lots of time looking into an area that you can't afford with your budget, which can cost you in the longer term as you waste more time and prices are rising. The second one's future growth potential. When you're buying your first home, you want to think long term. And despite what you're thinking about buying a home to live in, the overall financial position that you are left in when you sell the property will impact you no matter what. So you have to have some sort of investor mindset in that regard, because you are putting your life savings often into a property purchase for your first property. So it's not good enough to simply say, okay, well, we're just buying a home to live in, so I'm not worried about the growth, because it will impact you when you sell down the track, or whether it rises in value so that you can buy your next place or do something that you want to do with your lifestyle. So you cannot ignore this part. Future growth potential is really important. So you need to ask yourself, will the area grow in value over time? Not only look at the data, but look for factors like new infrastructure developments such as transport links, schools or shopping centres, which can drive demand for property in the area. Keep an eye out on government announcements and local council plans for future projects that may impact the value as well in a positive or negative way. For example, if there's a new train line or freeway extension planned, this could make the suburb much more accessible and desirable into the future. When you're considering historical data, suburbs that have seen steady growth over the past 5, 10, 20 years often continue on that trend, although nothing is guaranteed. Property experts often say that you should focus on suburbs where demand exceeds supply, as this can help to drive capital growth. And a key factor in looking for something that has a greater demand than supply is to look at the turnover of the properties. How quickly are they selling? How many sit on the market and just stew there for a while and don't sell? So it's basically a measure of competition, and that competition is what's going to push your price up in the longer term. The number 3 factor that you should be looking at to get the right location for your first home is lifestyle and amenities. So while the investment potential is important, you also want to choose a location that suits your lifestyle. Think about your day-to-day routine and what you need nearby. For instance, if you work in the city, you'll want a location with good public transport options. If you have a family or are planning one, proximity to quality schools, parks and childcare services should be high on your list. Getting the balance between investment and lifestyle is the big challenge, and it depends on what you're trying to do. The leaning towards investment will provide a better financial future, but the leaning towards lifestyle will provide you a better lifestyle. So you have to think about what's more important to you, and only you can answer that. And most people that I speak to that are looking to buy a home do lean towards lifestyle in their younger years, but they do regret that later because they don't get as much growth, and that impacts their lifestyle later on. So I'm always leaning towards those that can make a sacrifice to the lifestyle now will see a greater benefit later on. That's still based on making sure that you do buy the right property with the most investment potential. It's no good sacrificing your lifestyle if you buy a property that doesn't perform well. Local amenities like cafes, shops and recreation facilities can also make a big difference to the quality of your life. Suburbs with a good mix of services and community facilities tend to be more desirable and hold their value better. In Melbourne, for instance, areas like Coburg and Thornbury have been increasingly popular due to the mix of lifestyle factors, community, vibe and proximity to the city. The other thing that's really important in the lifestyle part here is where your family and friends live, to ensure that you can easily catch up with them and go to all these lifestyle amenity places like restaurants and cafes and have a good time, if that's what's important to you. Factor number 4 is safety and crime rates. Safety is a big concern for most home buyers, even if they don't speak about it. There is a natural bias against this because of obvious reasons. And this is especially if you're moving with a family, a young family. Make sure to research the crime rates in any area you're considering. High crime rates can affect both your quality of life and property's value. The Australian Bureau of Statistics provides useful data on crime rates across different regions, and websites like the RACV often publish suburb safety ratings. You might also want to visit an area at different times of the day just to get a feel for the neighbourhood safety. Does it feel secure after dark? Are there signs of neglect, like vandalism or poorly maintained public spaces? These factors can provide clues to the overall safety and community feel of the area. Factor number 5 is proximity to work and commute time. Making sure that the location that you pick is close enough to the workplace to not have some sort of detrimental long-term effect. Long commute times can take a toll on your work-life balance, so ideally you want to find a place that offers a reasonable travel time to and from work. It's really important that you factor in both time and cost when calculating your daily commute. Properties located close to public transport options like train stations or tram stops tend to be more in demand and can hold their value well over time, because these properties have the option of being able to use these public transport systems that better link to key areas in which people travel. It's also worth considering whether you're likely to change jobs in the next few years. If you do, will the location still work for you? Flexibility is key here, especially if remote work is a possibility for you. It can be risky buying a property in a new area that you've just started a new job in, because there's no long-term historical trend for you to be in that area, and you could well find yourself leaving back to where you were or to different areas. So it can be risky buying when you don't have that stability. But if you know you're going to be in a location for a long time for whatever factor, then that gives you more confidence to be able to buy, or that you're buying in the right location. Factor number 6 that helps you choose the right location for your first home is school zones and education. If you have children or you plan to, buying in a school zone can be a smart move. Even if you don't have kids, homes in highly sought after school zones often have high demand, which can push prices up over time. School zones are known to be a significant impact on property values in Australia, particularly in cities like Melbourne and Sydney. So you must research the local schools and their reputations and check whether the property you're considering falls within the catchment area of a desirable school. Keep in mind that government changes to zoning can affect property values, so it's wise to monitor any upcoming adjustments to school boundaries. Factor number 7 is local property trends. Understanding local property trends is essential to making a sound investment. Suburbs that have had consistently high demand typically indicate strong buyer interest, which can drive up property prices over time. On the other hand, areas with slow growth might not provide the return on investment you're hoping for. Use resources like CoreLogic and Domain to track suburb price trends and average time on market for properties. Look for areas where properties are selling relatively quickly, as this usually indicates good demand. Also consider renting before you buy in a certain area. This can give you a first-hand feel for an area without making the commitment of purchasing. Although this option is not often chosen by many people because it involves a level of patience, but for those that do choose this, I have seen it's been a bit more of a conservative type of person, but ultimately longer term they're making decisions that will be in their best interests, and they're not rushing into buying something in the wrong area, which can pay off. There are downsides to this as well. If you do rent in an area while the property market is moving, then you may have lost a year of property price growth and have to pay more, but that's the trade-off. If you are quite a conservative person, you're not sure whether the area that you're looking to buy is the right one. Now the final factor that I want to stress today when you're trying to find your right location for your first home is flood zones and environmental risks. Another important consideration is the environmental risk of the location. Check whether the property is in a flood zone, a bushfire prone area, or has other environmental risks. Properties in high risk areas can come with higher insurance premiums and could be harder to sell in the future. The Australian Government's National Flood Risk Information Portal is a useful tool for checking whether a suburb is prone to flooding. It's worth factoring in these potential risks when choosing the right location. So guys, choosing the right location for your first home involves a mix of financial, lifestyle and long-term considerations. Balancing affordability with future growth potential, lifestyle needs and market trends will help you make a well-informed decision. Keep an eye on infrastructure projects, school zones and local property data to guide your search, and don't be afraid to seek professional advice if you're feeling uncertain. Alright, so that wraps up another episode of Property Ponderings. I hope today's tips have given you a clear idea of how to choose the right location for your first home. If you'd like more personalised advice or help navigating the property market, feel free to reach out to me at 0400 122 081 or email me at craig@nickelbioadvisory.com.au. We'll chat again soon. Information provided in this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal or professional advice. While we aim to provide accurate and up-to-date information, every property transaction and investment is unique. You should seek the advice of a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. The opinions expressed in this podcast are our own and are not a substitute for tailored advice from a financial advisor or a real estate professional. We encourage you to consult with a qualified expert who can address your specific needs and circumstances.